So loss and damage has become the third pillar of climate action at UNFCCC. It means that when climate impacts affect communities, what kind of response should be there to help communities deal with climate impacts and also recover from these. So in this case, now we have Paris Agreement where loss and damage is part of an Article 8, where it has been outlined how Paris Agreement should be supporting countries who are already facing climate crisis and are going to face in future, because adaptation will no longer be enough for them. And there are already situations where these impacts are going to affect communities both in terms of extreme weather events such as floods and cyclones, but also slow onset events like glacier melt, increasing pace of desertification, sea level rise, and so on. So the issue of loss and damage is about the impacts that communities are facing, and the situation is going to be beyond adaptation. So how do we help communities who are being affected by these climatic disasters? So now that loss and damage has become the third pillar, as we know that mitigation has not been enough, and we are already seeing climate impacts, and communities and countries are not even prepared to respond to the climate impacts that they are already facing or going to face in future, which means the adaptation part is not going to be enough. So the discussion on loss and damage is about protecting communities from climate impact so that they are much more prepared and supported to respond to these disasters, and how they particularly recover from these impacts, because we are already seeing increased frequency and intensity of disasters, both extreme weather events and slow onset events. So how global community can then support vulnerable communities and countries who have no role in causing the problem, but they do not have sufficient resources to provide relief to communities who face these climatic events, and how they can recover from these, how they can rebuild their lives, and how they can do reconstruction. And in some cases, there is also going to be displacement. So how this discussion at UNFCCC can result into concrete support for these communities so that they can be helped in the case of crisis. So the discussion on loss and damage actually started not with the term loss and damage, but about adverse effects started way back in 1991. Vanuatu, as part of small island states, talked about how we need to be responding to situations where climate impacts will be seen by communities and countries, but it did not survive in the convention. But as a terminology, it came up in 2007 in the Bali Climate Conference, where this term loss and damage became an acceptable term. And then in 2012, there was an agreement that we need to have some kind of mechanism. So between 2007 and 2012, there were several proposals from various developing countries, particularly led by small island developing states, who came up with a proposal, and eventually we got a mechanism in 2013 called Warsaw International Mechanism for Loss and Damage, and then it was integrated in the Paris Agreement as Article 8. So the issue has been there from 1991, but it became much more concrete only in the last few years, and we have seen mixed progress on this issue. So when the Warsaw International Mechanism for Loss and Damage was conceptualized, there were three functions that were outlined for this mechanism. One was knowledge generation, second was coordination, and third, action and support. So we have seen that in the last few years, the issue has been recognized, and these functions that I just talked about, we have seen progress in case of knowledge generation. So in the last few years, we have been able to talk about various dimensions of loss and damage, such as non-economic loss and damage, issue of displacement, loss of biodiversity, slow onset events, which have become now a very important issue because the world is still grappling with some of these impacts like sea level rise and increasing pace of desertification or glacial retreat. So that has become popular. And there has also been a good coordination between different bodies, such as adaptation committee is also informed. We have seen least developed country grouping, which is also engaging with the loss and damage discussion, standing committee on finance. So there has been quite a bit of coordination. But the challenge mainly has been on how do we provide financial support to developing countries. So the third function of loss and damage, which is about action and support, that did not see much progress. Only in Madrid, it was agreed that there is going to be an expert group which has now been established, but a lot of work is required to make sure that countries get support, in the form of some action and financial terms when countries face this kind of climate crisis. So as I just mentioned, we have seen the discussion on coordination and knowledge generation, which has become very important, and many bodies have come forward, research institutions and international organizations like UNDP and International Organization for Migration, even labor organization. But where we have seen very little support is the whole issue on action and support. So there was an agreement to establish Santiago Network. So that decision was taken at COP25 in Madrid. But the challenge is that how we need to make sure that this network becomes operational in a manner that it provides real help to developing countries. So in this COP at Glasgow, COP26, the Santiago Network needs to be operationalized. It has already been established, the decision was taken, but how do we operationalize so that it helps people? So those discussions are happening right now. And the whole finance part, so it is there now as part of expert group, but a lot needs to happen because we still have not accepted the gap that exists. So there are several studies which talk about the need of $280 billion to more than $500 billion in the next few years by 2030 because of the damages that are being caused by climatic disasters. So how do we then provide support to developing countries so that they can recover from these impacts? So if we really want a positive conclusion, it has to make progress on the issue of finance and how developing countries can be supported. And it has to be done in a much more institutional manner. So as civil society, we are demanding for a loss and damage financing facility, which can then mobilize and channel this funding. So the loss and damage mechanism, which, as I said, has three functions. We have seen progress on knowledge generation and coordination, but finance happens to be an issue which has not seen much progress. And I think that's where, as global community, as developing countries, as civil society, we have to put pressure in a manner that there's more progress on finance. We need to understand what kind of damages countries are already seeing and how they are going to increase with increased warming. We also then have to assess the gaps that exist in terms of both funding mechanisms and what kind of needs developing countries have. And the third part is how do we then mobilize and channel these resources so that developing countries get that money in time and for the purpose of supporting communities to recover from climate impact. So the discussion on finance is absolutely central in the UNFCCC discussions, and that's what needs to see much more progress in the next few months so that at COP26 we are able to have something much more robust that supports developing countries and vulnerable communities. So as climate impacts increase, it is really important that we look at this issue in a much more holistic manner. There are new challenges, as I'm mentioning about slow onset events. There is very little knowledge about how we are going to deal with sea level rise, how we are going to deal with the glacial melt that is happening at a much faster pace, because it is going to drive people out of their homes. These challenges are going to make agriculture very difficult, and all the climate sensitive sectors are going to be affected. So how do we understand the impact of slow onset events? That is an area that requires a huge amount of work. And displacement, because we are going to see millions and millions of people driven out of their homes. So how, and most of it is going to be internal displacement, so how we can help countries so that they can adopt policies of social protection, which means immediate support to communities who are displaced, protecting their rights and adopting a human rights based approach. So all these issues are really important, and they are going to be a lot more complex and challenging in future. So we need to be understanding these issues and come up with the ways and measures to help people who are facing climate impacts now and are going to face them much more in future.